KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Tammy Eswick with BIN News Now. The bromance between President Donald Trump and Elon Musk seems to be over.
I'm not thinking about Elon. I just wish him well.
The president told NBC News that if Elon Musk funds Democratic candidates, he will face very serious consequences. It's the latest in a string of back-and-forth threats, comments, and tell-alls on social media between the two. New measles numbers are out. The CDC says there are now over 1,100 confirmed cases in the United States. They say 4 new cases were found in Texas. That's where doctors say the outbreak began. The Secretary of Defense says the U.S. Marines are gearing up to help local police in Los Angeles control anti-ICE protesters. Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom calling that move deranged. Black Mayor Karen Bass says she doesn't think it's necessary and that the LAPD can handle the protesters. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Music hitting your heart, cause I know you got soul. Hey, listen if you're missing, y'all. Swinging while I'm singing. Hey, giving what you're getting. Knowing what I know in. While the black band's sweating. In the rhythm I'm rolling. Gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey, our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power. Fight the power. The power, fight the power, fight the power, fight the power. We got to fight the powers that be. As the rhythm's designed to bounce.
I'm Tavis Smiley. This is KBLA Talk 1580. We are continuing into hour 2 of our live special here on KBLA Talk 1580 as Trump has deployed National Guard troops to L.A. amid these immigration raids. We had Karen Bass, the mayor of this city, on in the first hour. You heard the mayor say the city is peaceful and this is much ado about nothing. It is Donald Trump apparently trying to teach us a lesson. We start this hour now. Don't want to waste her time. Know how busy she is with the city attorney for the city of Los Angeles, Hydee Feldstein Soto. Madam City Attorney, how are you today?
Good morning, sir. How are we all? We are trying to react to the new reality in a way that doesn't escalate, but that nonetheless holds firm and stands together.
What is this new reality as you see it?
We have so far watched what has been happening in the immigration front, and the numbers of arrests have not been vastly different from what it was under the last year of the Biden administration. Immigration enforcement was, as promised, as advertised, focused on cartels, on criminal acts, on gangs, on bad behavior by those who entered our country illegally. This new reality is quite different. This is our family members, our neighbors, our coworkers, our classmates, our children, and raids like the ones that have been conducted over the last 3 days now do nothing but instill fear in our neighborhood and our residents. And so it's incumbent upon us to peacefully protest, if that is what we choose to do, to exercise our First Amendment rights, to lead, to find legal ways to reassert the rule of law and the constitutional protections to which everyone who lives in our city is entitled.
There's no naivete in asking this question. Why do you believe that the Trump administration is doing this?
You're asking me to read into the mind of a mindset that seems insane to me, so that's very difficult. There's lots of rumors, Tavis, and I don't want to repeat rumors.
Sure.
But my understanding is that the direction to dramatically and quickly escalate came from a very senior level within the administration, not necessarily the president himself, although, it well could have been.
Yeah.
But I think even Stephen Miller has said that he held a meeting with senior officials from DHS and ICE Border Patrols insisting that they escalate and escalate quickly because he wanted to see more arrests than were happening.
I'm joined by a number of my colleagues who want to ask questions as well. I'll make way for them in just a second. Nicordelai Corte is here. Adrian Shropshire is here. And Dominique DePrima is here. We'll start with Dominique in just a second. But I want to ask this question right quick. We, again, had the mayor on in our first hour, Madam City Attorney. And we know this is not hyperbole. Dominique DePrima's brother, as you know, Raz Baraka, is the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, running for governor in the Garden State there, was arrested by ICE agents some time ago. They eventually dropped those charges, but you heard Tom Homan, the immigration czar for President Trump, threatened to arrest Karen Bass, threatened to arrest the governor of this state. I don't ask about the governor, but if they were, or if they are at some point, to get bold enough to address the mayor as city attorney, what happens then?
My tool to fight is the pen and the courts. There are those who go into the street. There are those who fight with the pen and the legal system. My office will be more than ready to defend our mayor, any council member, anyone in our city who is wrongfully arrested or who they are trying to intimidate. On a lighter note, I note that our mayor does have 24/7 security by the Los Angeles Police Department, and so I think it would be a little difficult to get to her, but hey, we will be ready.
Madam City Attorney, I mean, speaking of the LA Police Department and the Sheriff's Department, we, as a city, technically, my understanding is we have sanctuary policies in state in place. The Sheriff's Department is not meant to participate in civil immigration enforcement. The LAPD, under SB 54 and Special Order 40, they restrict how much they at least initiate police action around immigration status. But yet what we've seen now is LAPD and the Sheriff's Department backing up ICE officers in the streets. Where's the line here? Because it does feel like they are part of these raids.
Okay, Dominic, let me go back and correct one thing because I don't want to be misunderstood. I don't think anybody's arresting Mayor Bass. I should say that. I think it is a very remote, unlikely. It's huffing and puffing and threatening to blow our house down.
But they did. But it's not going to happen.
They arrested my brother.
They arrested the mayor of Newark.
And he's a sitting mayor. I mean, it's not like he used to be the mayor. He was the mayor. He is the mayor. He was there greeting members of Congress. He complied with the orders of the ICE officers, even though he was well within his rights to be where he was, and they arrested him anyway.
Which is why we are preparing.
Yeah. I got you.
We are preparing, but I don't want to be misunderstood that the city attorney thinks it's likely. Let's go to your other question. Local and law enforcement will not and cannot assist in conducting immigration enforcement. They are there, and they've always been there to maintain peace, public safety, and protection of property. They are abiding by our sanctuary city ordinance, as I understand it, and that is part of the excuse given by the federal government for bringing in the National Guard, because they said they could not rely on our local law enforcement officers to protect the Border Patrol and ICE as they were carrying out their missions.
But what we're seeing in the streets, I mean, it's there on video as the LAPD backing up ICE. I mean, that's what we see with our eyes.
Dominic, I don't know which video you're talking about. I saw one video where there was a police line at the warehouse, and they came in after the fact in response. They weren't there setting up a perimeter or helping ICE. There was a protest after ICE finished its activity, and they got a call that my understanding is they believed was much more serious than it turned out to be. And they, in fact, set up about, I think it was 40 officers in a line, and they weren't there but a short time. I think the chief should address those kinds of issues. My understanding is LAPD, and I won't speak for the sheriff, but LAPD is very clear that they are there to respond to public safety issues and protect the city and its property and its streets, but not to facilitate any kind of activity by ICE.
We expect to hear from Sheriff Robert Luna at the bottom of the hour. Adrian.
Madam City Attorney, this is Adrienne Shropshire. We have seen Angelenos peacefully protest over the last couple of days. Tavis asked Mayor Bass earlier in the show about how she would respond or what she has to say to Angelenos who understand their right to protest, their right to show that they are opposed to what is happening and to the federalizing of the National Guard and the National Guard being sent into our city. I would ask you a similar question around what would you say to Angelenos right now who are scared, who are frustrated, and who want to be able to demonstrate that they do not consent to what is happening. What would you say to them, and to those who will be at City Hall today, and to those who will be at rallies over the next couple of days?
I encourage everyone to exercise their First Amendment right. I reemphasize, please do so peacefully. Once you introduce violence or looting, it changes the dynamic from a law enforcement's perspective. I would also remind you that from a practical standpoint, this is our city. Mm-hmm. These are our small businesses. These are our streets, our resources. Let's not destroy it. Let's not impose the cost of cleanup on a city that already is struggling to meet the demands that it has in terms of infrastructure and services. So, yes, we should all feel free to exercise our First Amendment rights. We should let our neighbors know that we stand with them. We should help educate. I will tell you, local law officials are not being informed of where the next raids will take place. So it's really important that we protect each other. It's really important to keep our neighbors informed. It's important to let city officials know. If you see something, please say something. You can also always call the helpline. Chirla has set up a special rapid response team. It's 888-624-4752. Our city has a Know Your Rights webpage on our library page. It's in the statement that I issued on this, so it's part of my website as well. And people have the right, those who are undocumented, the rights are different. It isn't just the right to protest and speak. It's the right to remain silent. It's the right to refuse to be searched. It's the right to refuse to allow ICE to come into your home. Don't open the door. If you're sitting in your car, don't lower the window. And yes, you have the right to speak with an attorney. And you shouldn't be signing any documents at this point before you have legal advice. Yeah. So I think it's important to educate people as to the rights of those who may have cause to be afraid of law enforcement, as well as the First Amendment rights of speech and assembly for those of us who want to demonstrate our solidarity and our outrage at what's going on in our city.
Madam City Attorney, I know your time is tight. Dr. Corte has one final question I want to allow him to ask. Before he does that, just a clarification of what you said earlier. I think I know this. I think we all know this. I just want the audience to make sure they're on the same page with us. When ICE comes in, they have no obligation whatsoever to inform local authorities that they're coming or where they're showing up. Is that what I heard you say?
They're not doing so. I will not draw the legal conclusion, Tavis. Right. We're in the process of examining what the rights are. There has been no federal state of emergency declared, nor could there be, I think, on the facts of our city. So the president is not operating under the Insurrection Act, and the calling up of the National Guard, just by way of example, would normally require the consent of the governor. So there's some very unusual things going on here legally. Yeah. As I said, my style is to fight with the pen and in court.
One final question, we'll let you go. Dr. Corte?
Madam City Attorney, the LA Times is reporting that the U.S. Attorney in L.A. has moved to neutralize California's sanctuary rules. U.S. Attorney Bill Asali just a few weeks ago announced a pilot program dubbed Operation Guardian Angel that's intended to neutralize sanctuary state laws. The office identifies individuals with criminal records who've been deported and charges them with illegally re-entering the United States, a federal crime. What is your office doing in coordination with the California Attorney General to push back on this? We know one of the things that President Trump just can't stand is the fact that L.A. and the state of California proudly call ourselves a sanctuary city, a sanctuary state. What are you doing to push back on that? And if we lose, what's at stake for the people?
I'm not going to catastrophize to a loss at this point, sir. I do speak to Attorney General Bonta regularly. I don't think I can answer your question comfortably because I don't want to be projecting what we might do collectively or what I might do individually. Yes, we are a sanctuary city, and the state of California, as I'm sure you know, has declared itself a sanctuary state. We are far from the only sanctuary city in the state, nor are we the only sanctuary city nationwide. So there are currently 90-some-odd lawsuits that are pending. None of them deal with the specific circumstances that have arisen in Los Angeles. And so we're taking a very careful look at what we might do to better protect our city based on recent events.
What is your message, Madam City Attorney? We'll let you go here. What's your final word, your message to the citizens of this city today and in the coming days?
Don't let a bully scare us. This is bullying tactics. This is designed to render us helpless. This is designed to let us lie down and go, oh, my goodness, he's going to do whatever he wants, and we can't do anything about it. We can and we will do everything we can about it, and ultimately, we will not be afraid.
We are grateful that when KBLA Talk 1580 calls you, Madam City Attorney, you always answer and you show up. Thank you for your time. Good to have you on.
Thank you so much, sir. Bye-bye.
Appreciate you. Adrian, as founder of the Black Pack, what's your sense? We were talking earlier in the first hour. You didn't get some of this then. I want to give you some of it now. You heard Dominique, I think, ask Melina directly whether or not this is an issue for us. There's some black folks say this isn't our issue. Nobody does better polling, better research than the Black Pack. What's your sense of how black people? I mean, Dominique asked, is it our issue? I want to just kind of tweak that a little bit. What's your sense of whether or not we see this? What's the data tell you about whether or not we think this is, in fact, one of our issues?
Well, let me say that I've been, it's concerning what we're seeing on social media right now, too, right? So there is this, sort of framing on social media that says exactly that. Black people, this is not our issue. Mind your own black business, right? Whatever it is, right? And that's today as well. The reality, though, is that, if you talk to Nana Jumphy at Black Alliance for Just Immigration, what she will say, and said on my show the other night, is that 1 in 5 black people are either immigrants or are the child or grandchild of immigrants. 1 in 5. 1 in 5.
They've rounded up a lot of Haitians in New York City.
I mean, if you think in L.A.
Yeah, in L.A. too.
We just talk about who the black immigrants are in L.A.
Yeah.
So it is our business. One, right? So there is, we know folks who are either immigrants or their parents are immigrants. This is our issue. 2, I would say that I remember the LAPD gang sweeps from the 90s. And what I know is that when they came through to sweep up who they said were gang members, they swept up everybody. Yeah. And so the idea that we somehow, as black people, live in isolated communities, that we do not live in mixed communities. We know that South LA has the highest number of undocumented immigrants in the city. We live in mixed neighborhoods. Coming through and trying to individually, determine who is, what status someone has, that's not happening. And so it's our issue because our neighbors are, right next to us. They will get caught up, and so will we, and so will our kids. I heard Dominique saying earlier about, mamas are not going to stand for this. Well, that's everybody's mama is not going to stand for this. Yeah. So when we think about, and so I'll set quickly just on the polling, as we have polled on the issue of immigration since 2017 with Black folks. And the reality is that Black people understand that this isn't just about this issue, right? They understand that this is about, the growth in white supremacy. They understand that this is about criminalizing folks. And if we know anything about when this nation tries to criminalize folks, they criminalize us, right? So people see that. They see the criminalization of other folks' kids. And so they get the issue, right? They connect the dots. And so I think that it's, there's all kinds of, social media propaganda and campaigns that we need to push back against, because it isn't actually the true belief of Black folks right now. People know that this is about us, and even if they don't think it's about us in this moment, what people know is that it'll be about us in 25 seconds.
Let me raise something that might be uncomfortable and impolitic, but if I can't do it amongst these Negroes, I can't do it with anybody. So let me just raise this. I have discussed this on my program. I suspect you have as well on your programs. We all saw the number of Latinos who voted for Donald Trump when he ran. I'm not casting aspersion. I'm not putting everybody in a box. I'm asking whether or not we think that many of them now have buyer's remorse. I ask that in part because I ain't met no Black conservatives yet who have buyer's remorse. I've raised this issue 1,000 times on my program. I don't care whether it's going after the Blacksonian in D.C. We could talk about turning a blind eye to police accountability in places where they kill Black people, like George Floyd in Minneapolis, Breonna Taylor in Louisville, Tyree Nichols in Memphis. I could do this all day long. Going after DE&I, don't get me started. I ain't got enough time to run the list of all the things that we can see every day that make it abundantly clear that Donald Trump is no friend or fan. He's a foe, in fact, of Black life in America. And I ain't heard none of these conservative Negroes come out yet and say the president has gone too far. That's Black conservatives. What say we in this conversation about whether or not some of our brown brothers and sisters now have buyer's remorse when they voted for Donald Trump in the numbers that they did? I'll start with you first, Adrian, Dominique, and Lee. If you want something, jump in.
It's important first to note that the majority of Latinos did not vote for Donald Trump, right? So I think sometimes we see the increase in numbers of Latino men in particular, and we sort of project that out to seem like all Latinos, but that is not true. The majority of Latinos did not vote for Trump. I think we are seeing buyer's remorse from the president of, or the head of Latinos for Trump, or whatever his campaign group was, just yesterday, right? Because they are going after Latinos they're going after the wrong Latinos, right? And so you had folks in the Cuban community in Florida who did not think that Cubans were going to lose their protective status, right? They're going after whoever it was that certain groups of Latinos who supported Trump, whoever it is that they thought were the bad Latinos that they were going to round up. They're not just going after them. And so you do see folks now saying, well, we didn't vote for that. Well, no, yes, you did. Yeah. Because he told you exactly what he was going to do, and you were with it. So I think that you do see some folks suggesting that they have buyer's remorse, and only because the administration is doing exactly what they said they were going to do and going after everybody, and they thought that at least their community would be protected, and their community is not.
Mm-hmm. Dominique?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people are laughing, and speaking of social media, laughing and mocking, saying FAFO, FAFO, ha, 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 this is what you voted for. And we have seen, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think among Latino men, the majority did vote for Trump. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I've read.
The men.
The men,
yeah.
But, I mean, I think we got to back up on the FAFO thing, because, to be honest with you, it impacts everyone. Our communities are connected. And I just want to point out that buyer's remorse or not buyer's remorse, there has never been a time when our communities have been flooded with law enforcement where it's worked out well for Black people. To me, that's sort of common sense 101. When law enforcement floods our community, whether it's to round up gang members or immigrants or people, illegally vending or whatever, somehow we always get the bad end of that deal. So this thing about, it's time for black people to sit this one out, the 92% voted, now we're going to go somewhere on an island, or F around and find out. I think we need to be a little bit, we need to back off of that and really be a little bit mindful of what this looks like in real time in our communities. And I do want to take this opportunity to just quickly mention that there's an emergency organizing meeting today at 7 p.m. at the Center for Black Power, 3423 West 43rd Place in Leimert Park, around this issue.
I got a text message a few minutes ago from our colleague here at KBLA Talk 1580, Jesse Jackson Jr., former congressman, almost 20 years in Congress. I got about 5 minutes here before we're expecting a phone call from Sheriff Robert Luna. But I want to bring Jesse in right quick and let him make the point on the air that you suggested to me in text. It's fascinating for me. Jesse Jr., go in. Make this point for me, please, sir.
Well, first of all, let me say, Tavis, that this has been a fascinating conversation, and my heart goes out to the people of Los Angeles, and they should know at this hour that the entire nation and the entire world is looking at them. They are watching them, because we know that what is happening very well be in Chicago tomorrow. It could be New York. It could be Atlanta. It could be in any city in this country. And so we're all tuning into KBLA. We're all tuning into this conversation. And I just wanted to make two quick points. First, something my father talked about in 1984. By the way, good morning, Dominique.
Good morning.
Good morning.
In 1984, Dad said on the campaign trail, it was fascinating that when the Kennedys went to poor black communities in the South, in Mississippi and Alabama, the nation always responded, poor black baby is poverty, like we belong in poverty. That was the nation's response. But when the Kennedys went to Appalachia and they saw poor white people in poverty, their response was just the opposite. We have a national problem with poverty, and therefore we must come up with solutions for poverty. And subsequently, while looking for solutions for poverty, primarily white poverty, they ended up creating food stamp programs. They ended up creating programs that we could take advantage of as African Americans because we generally fit in the category. And so one of the things that worries me at this moment is while Trump is threatening the governor and others, it seems to me that it is expected that we are going to complain as black people. And we should complain because we are the bellwether for when things go wrong. We know something is wrong, and we also know that we are next. And so we can feel it. But what's absent right now, in my opinion, Tavis, and I don't want the whole 5 minutes, what's absent right now, where is Gavin Newsom at the front line of arrest? Where is Nancy Pelosi at the front line of arrest?
Preach.
They're all Californians.
Preach.
They all show up on Martin Luther King Day.
Preach.
They all show up on Black History
Preach.
Day. But we need them to risk arrest.
Preach.
Now let's go to Birmingham for a moment. We talk about the letter from the Birmingham jail, but it's a letter from Dr. King to white clergymen saying, now, I'm in jail because I'm fighting, like Paul, against injustice. Now, the question is, why aren't y'all in jail with me? Because if you're in jail with me, it's not about Dr. King being in jail. It's not about the black preacher in jail. America learns a lesson when the color of poverty reflects them or when the circumstances reflect them. We need our white liberal friends to step up. And I'll close on this because I did text this to Tavis. It is Pastor Martin Niemöller who says, first they came for the Jew.
Oh, yeah.
But I did nothing because I'm not a Jew. Then they came for the socialist. But I did nothing because I'm not a socialist. Then they came for the Catholics. But I did nothing because I'm not Catholic. Finally, they came for me. But then there was no one left to help me. When they come for Karen Bass, they're coming for us. And the same people who are complaining about Karen Bass being in the motherland when the fire broke out, some of them same people ought to be on the front line trying to help these Los Angelenos and go to jail with them if necessary to show just how corrupt this policy is. Tavis, I'm just grateful to be part of the KBLA family, brother.
Every time he speaks, I say the same thing. The apple does not fall far from the tree. He is his daddy's child. Jesse, thank you. We'll be tuning into your show tomorrow to hear your further insights. Thank you for your call.
Thank you for the opportunity, Tavis. Thanks,
Adrian,
Dominique. Thanks, Steve.
Take care. Take care, Jesse.
Adrian, I saw you nodding your head. What you got to say?
I just got the head nod.
Yeah.
I
saw you.
I was in the moment.
Yeah.
I think that, that all of that is right. And I think that there's a lot of questioning in Black communities right now about the Democratic Party and whether or not it is a party that stands for our interests and for our community. Similarly, I think in the Latino community, I think if Democrats wanted right now to show communities of color in this country, and particularly Black folks, that they are truly a party that will defend our rights, that this is the moment. But I'm not sure where that is coming from right now.
What are your thoughts, Dominique, on what Jesse had to say? It's a powerful, powerful point that when the good white folk, as I call them, when the good white folk show up, it changes the color of the conversation. And Jesse, he called him out. I don't see them standing on the front lines in solidarity with these brown folk, with these Black folk, risking arrest, because that would surely change the conversation.
Well, yeah, it does change the conversation, and I think that what you're seeing is regular people, regular, as you call them, good white folks, showing up, whether it be, I saw, huge crowd in San Diego surrounding ICE. You see them on the streets with this, 50 states movement, but the officials not as much. I feel like this is one of the frustrations and one of the reasons why my brother got such a huge reaction when he stepped forward is because we want to see more robust responses from our electeds. Mm-hmm. And whether they're white, Black, brown, or others, we need you to step up and show up for us in a way that means, like John Lewis. Be like John Lewis. Yeah. Get in some good trouble, Dems. Stop acting like all you can do is politely knock on the door and wait for ICE to let you in. And I think that's a point that, politicians are slow to take up right now.
We are in the 10 o'clock hour on the West Coast here. This station, of course, heard around the world. And we see people listening all around the country right now on the app. So we're in the 10 o'clock hour Pacific time. This is normally the Justice Files with Dion Raymond. Guess who's here? Dion Raymond. Dion, no particular question, but you are an attorney. You do a show every Sunday in this hour about justice. No particular question. What say you about what you've been seeing, witnessing, processing? Just talk to me.
Thank you, Tavis. Long before I was an attorney, I was a student activist and always involved in social political activism. And Jesse Jackson's words are just so poignant and so important to us right now, because I'm always thinking about, there's been a lot of conversation about this existential crisis threatening democracy. And so the question is always on the table, what is your investment? What is anyone's investment? And we know that Black people, we have always been the most invested because we are the descendants and the survivors of chattel slavery, having been property. Our bodies and our lives have always been on the line, Tavis. Our children have always been on the line. Our liberty has always been on the line, and we have always protested, which is a cornerstone of this country. And so we've always been at the forefront of that, and it has moved this country along. And so it takes me back to the expression, if they come for me in the morning, they will come for you at night. They're always coming for us. They've never not been gunning or coming for us. And so this is very much our fight. And I believe that our elected leaders and officials, like Dominique, your brother, the ones who have been willing to invest by coming out and standing and protesting, because they're coming for us, Tavis. They're always coming for us. And to shut down something as fundamental as protests. And I don't think that there's a bottom to this, Tavis. I heard what Connie was saying, that we have to be organized, and we do, and we never want the issue to be about how we respond.
Yeah.
But if we look at the history of protests in this country, 1943 with the Zoot Suit, and 1960s with the LA riots, and then 1992 with the uprising, there's always been the need to push back. But I think what's different this time, Tavis, is I don't know that there's any bottom to what this administration is willing to do to use power and violence against us.
How much of this, then, do you think is ultimately about what I think you suggested a moment ago, quieting dissent? How much of all of this? I don't just mean what's happening in L.A. right now. I mean the whole way this administration is showing up. How much of that? This is your program, typically in this hour. Again, talking about justice issues. When you look at it through a justice lens, how much of this, to your mind, is ultimately about quieting dissent?
It's all about that. It's about silencing people. It's mental. It's very much mental. Very much what happened in slavery. Tavis, they would take the most robust and the most protesting slave and make an example of that person to make everyone else afraid and unwilling to stand up. And it's a very powerful tool. And it's happening on a mass basis that want people to be afraid. Tavis, there's a local Home Depot near my home, and I intentionally passed by it on my way here. I think I saw 3 people. Yeah. It's working. It's working for now. Yeah. But I think that is a fundamental part of their strategies to make people afraid. But the human spirit is so indomitable that ultimately it won't work.
Nicola Corte, let me swing out here for a second. We're waiting on a phone call from the sheriff. We know he's literally out on the street right now, doing his job, and so we give him some leeway, some grace. We'll take his phone call whenever he calls. We were literally just texting with his office a moment ago, waiting here from Sheriff Robert Luna. But I wonder, and there's no naivete, as I often say in asking this question, Nicola, but I wonder to what extent, given what Dion just laid out about how this is really about quieting dissent, how much more emboldened, not that they need any help, how much more emboldened the Trump administration has been when it comes to silencing everyday people when they have caused the media to bend the knee. So if you're an everyday person and you see ABC, CNN, the Washington Post, you see where I'm going here. Somebody say amen.
Amen.
You see them bending the knee. It is Sunday, ain't it? So we can say amen on a Sunday. When you see major media outlets bending the knee, when you see law firms, Nicola, bending the knee, I wonder then how much more emboldened this administration has become if they know that these institutions are not scared of them. They feel they can just run roughshod over everyday people in L.A.
Well, just to put a finer point on it, Tavis, and the Washington Post is now reporting that ABC News is suspending journalist Terry Moran after a post criticizing Stephen Miller. As we know, Stephen Miller is the White House
Are you serious?
Deputy Chief of Staff.
Terry Moran is a long-standing journalist who literally, if you know his backstory, he's put his life on the line.
Yeah.
Terry Moran is a long-standing journalist at ABC. Let me connect the dots. We all saw weeks ago, not one, not two, a number of major CBS executives left the building. They left the so-called Tiffany Network. The head of 60 Minutes left the building. And then the sister in charge of the whole news operation at CBS, she left the building because they're sick and tired. Fannie Lou Hamer said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. They couldn't take it anymore at CBS. Now ABC, after paying $16 million to the Trump Library over the George Stephanopoulos kerfuffle, now they're suspending Terry Moran?
Yes, Washington Post is reporting that ABC News on Sunday, ABC News Today, suspended senior national correspondent Terry Moran after he sharply criticized the White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller on X. It's the latest flashpoint in what's been a long-running clash between Trump and the network, to your point. He said, quote, Miller is a man who is richly endowed with the capacity for hatred. He's a world-class hater. That's what Moran wrote in his post. He went on to say, you can see this just by looking at him because you can see that his hatreds are his spiritual nourishment. He eats his hate. Terry Moran wrote the post, which he published early Sunday and later deleted. Look, we are in uncharted waters. As you know,
uncharted, choppy waters.
That's right. That's right. I mean, as KBLA's White House correspondent, I pop into that briefing room as often as I can, and it's a different atmosphere.
Yeah,
it's a different atmosphere, and so it's not just watching the networks bend the knee, watching major law firms bend the knee, but it's watching just sort of the way that we engage with our government. This ain't somebody else's government. This is our government. These people work for us, and they have flipped the script on us so quick. And so, one of the things that I keep hearing from folks inside and outside the Beltway is, we need not just Democrats, but we need people of conscience to step up as an opposition party, right? We have current leaders in Congress that seem to be resigned to being in the minority. They're counting votes, trying to see where they can get enough votes to take control of the House in 2026 during the midterms. There may not be much left after the midterms.
Adrian, let me ask you, Adrian, whether or not you accept that distinction that Nicolai makes between Democrats being the minority party and being an opposition party.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think there is a distinction, and I also think that there is, and I mentioned earlier, I think that there is an expectation among their constituents for them to be an opposition party right now. I don't think that people, believe that they're going to be passing legislation and doing their normal legislative duties. No one believes that that's what's happening right now, that can happen, or that is the reality that we live in anymore. There is an expectation that they function, that they act, that they organize like an opposition party. And I think that means different things to different people. I think that's part of the challenge when people, folks are disappointed in party leadership because they have different sort of expectations of what that means. But when people say we want the Democratic Party to fight right now, that is what they mean. They don't mean they want them to be better legislators, right? It means they want them to literally push back on every single thing, throw gunk in the gears, right, to slow everything up. And they want them to be in community with their constituents. They want them to come, and they want them to do them town halls. They want them to come and be in community and figure out with communities, and I don't just mean ours. I mean communities across the country. They want them to figure out what we are doing collectively to push back and say that we do not consent. And so I think beyond the sort of academic distinctions, right, between those things, there is a visceral distinction that everyday people are making right now.
I'm getting some breaking news from our colleague James Farr. I just asked James to call in to share with me what he is seeing right now in Pasadena, what reports he's getting about what's happening in Pasadena, as if that Altadena area needs any more hail. They've caught enough hail of late. Let me see if that's James right now, Simeon. If it is, we'll put him right on. I want to ask Dominique what she thought about the Stephen Miller news. It is James Farr. James Farr, of course, our colleague here at KBLA Talk 1580, host of Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, heard on the weekends. I thought I saw a message from you, James Farr. What are you hearing or seeing with regard to these ICE agents in the Pasadena-Altadena area right now?
Good morning, Tavis. Good morning, all. Yes, I can confirm that ICE agents have been seen in and about the city. I've tried to follow up with law enforcement, city officials, so I can't confirm that there is an actual operation or enforcement in place, but there are visibly ICE agents in and around the city, primarily over in the northwest section, which would be west of Lake Avenue, near and around the area where we held our town hall meeting.
So ICE agents, Dominique, in the Pasadena area, National Guard troops on the streets here in Los Angeles. Talk to me.
Yeah, it actually follows to a question I really wanted to flip the mic and ask you, Tavis, because one of the things I admire most about you is that you're an historian and you always put things in the context of the long game. And I feel like all of these things, you're right, Altadena, Pasadena doesn't need this right now, but fear seems to be more of an epidemic than anything else. Mm-hmm. And, I see we have the assemblyman on the phone, but my question for you is how do you put that fear in context and how do we push back? Because I think that's the bigger problem.
let's, if you don't mind, I'll toss
Put
that.
a pin in that.
No, not a pin in it. We'll toss that to Assembly Member Isaac Bryan. Dominique, why don't you introduce him and ask that question of him? I'll certainly opine on it as we move through this hour. But why don't you introduce the Assemblyman and ask him that question?
Yeah, my Assembly member, who's been very vocal on these issues, Assembly Member Isaac Bryan joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
Yeah, great to have you. And I mean, you've been absolutely fearless, outspoken. You know, obviously you're a progressive. But what do we do about that? Because I think folks are scared, and it does seem to be impacting some of our Democratic leadership.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is, you know, in many ways, this is a military coup. I mean, co-opting the National Guard at a time when the governor has full authority to call them in if the city needs them. The city did not need them. The LAPD, who has never been a friendly organization to public protest and outrage, put out a bulletin last night thanking the protesters for being peaceful and well organized. And this man still sent in 2,000 National Guards, or at least threatened to. He was claiming victory before they ever entered the city, which reminds us this is all a political stunt, but it's incredibly costly. It's putting a lot of fear in people's minds. It's expensive. Every dollar that's spent terrorizing our city is money that could have been spent helping rebuild Altadena, helping rebuild folks who have been displaced, get folks off the streets. This is shameful.
The legislature, as you know, Isaac Bryan, you obviously are a member of the Assembly, so you were there when, and as I recall, cast your vote in favor of this, when Gavin Newsom called a special session of the legislature to get out in front of what they thought would be some pretty outrageous pushback by the Trump administration. So in many ways, this was expected and no surprise, I guess, on one hand. But how do you contextualize again our electeds in the state of California trying to get out in front of this kind of bad behavior, as it were, by the Trump administration, and yet it didn't stop them from doing what they're doing right about now?
Yeah, I think it's because we've been fractured, and I definitely cast my vote for it. And it wasn't enough money, by the way. That vote was to allow for the Attorney General to start filing lawsuits against the administration if they overstepped. They overstepped within 4 hours of being elected. We have filed dozens of lawsuits, and we're filing one very soon about the idea of withholding our own tax dollars from the people of California who have paid in to the federal government and expect that return, and considering filing one related to this military overreach as we get more details about, you know, how he has utilized the National Guard. Every level of government has its authorities and has its responsibilities. If the federal government is moving in a manner that's not consistent with history or precedent, they're not letting the city, the county, or the state know when they are here. They are planning these mobilizations, and they're planning for them to be incendiary. They are trying to cause fractures in our communities and dare us to do something about it, because that gives them more authority to move with even more repression. Remember, they threatened to send in Marines last night. Yeah. Marines for what? You know what I mean? All the real organizers I know stayed home. You know, it was Prince's birthday, so my big sister, I won't name her out, I know she was listening to Purple Rain. Like, we are organized. We are in solidarity. They want to suppress us. They want to use military force in L.A., and we just won't let it. We're going to be organized. We're going to speak out. There's a big rally at City Hall today at 2 o'clock. It'll be well organized, and if it's met with repression, there will be consequences, but those consequences have to come from the people in solidarity. They won't come from government. They will come from the grassroots.
To the point Isaac Bryan's making now, we had the city attorney on at the top of this hour, Hydee Feldstein Soto. We asked her that question directly. We, as in the court, asked her that question, and she didn't want none of it. She couldn't go there. When she was asked directly about whether or not the federal government has any obligation, any responsibility to let us know, let law enforcement know, certainly when they're coming into our city, into our state. And she couldn't really answer that question with any proficiency, given that she and the Attorney General, as she said, are having conversations about that right now, trying to figure out where that line is. I digress on that point. Adrian Shropshire.
Senator, we were together on Friday at the State of the People Power Tour, and I was reflecting on that. as you were talking about us being organized and the solidarity that's needed and necessary in this moment. This idea that that they will try to fracture our communities to try and pit us against each other. We were talking a little bit about that earlier. But what do you say to Black LA right now? We were in the midst on Saturday night of a lot of joy and love, but seriousness about the moment that we're facing. There were a lot of organizations that turned out over 2 days to sort of talk about how do we organize ourselves. What do you say to Black LA right now about this moment, the role that we can and should be playing in helping to make sure that our city is organized and understands what's going on?
I would say what James Baldwin said to Angela Davis: if they come for you tonight, they will surely come for me in the morning. This isn't about immigration. This is about fascism, militarized fascism, and our willingness to stand up to it or give our city to the dictator in chief who has proven a disdain for us. All he has ever done is brought harm to us. Remember, when he flew in to the fire victims, he never came to Altadena. He never came to see black folks. And also remember, for folks who aren't paying close enough attention, this is all under the direction and the authority of the U.S. Attorney General for the Western District, Bill Asaley, whose first efforts to divide our community happened in black communities, and we recognize it. Now he's trying to split up Latino communities, and he's trying to split Latino communities from black communities, and we're just not going to allow him to do that. In Los Angeles, it's black love, brown pride, just like Pac told us. We move in solidarity, we protect our city, we protect each other, we protect ourselves, and that's what we've got to do in this moment. We've got to lead and show others what it's like to love and move with radical solidarity.
Assemblymember Bryan, this is Nick Cordelai. I want to ask you about what some people think of as sort of the nuclear option for Governor Newsom and leaders of the state. It's no surprise, the California governor has fired back at President Trump over reports that the administration is preparing to cancel several federal grants for California. The California governor made clear we pay over $80 billion more in taxes than we get back. Maybe it's time to cut that off. What red line would have to be crossed related to these ICE raids for leaders like you in the California state legislature to join forces to lock arms with the governor and other leaders to push that nuclear option where California would strongly consider or act to withhold our federal dollars from this, what you refer to as a fascist government?
Yeah, we are still in the process of exploring the legality and the constitutionality and the options of how we can withhold our blessings to the federal government that have been used to subsidize opposition to California all through the South. We still follow the Constitution here, and so we are exploring those legal options. But let's be very clear, Governor Newsom was not the first to call for this. I've been talking about this since January, where they threatened to withhold fire aid unless we adhere to some outrageous demands. They are still withholding $40 billion in disaster aid of our own money that Los Angeles and Altadena need desperately in this moment. I've said it on Dominique DePrima's morning show. I've said it on the Assembly floor at least 6 or 7 times going back to January. I'm grateful that the governor is also saying this. So is the Speaker of the Assembly. And so I'm hopeful conversations will now escalate to exploring real options to protect ourselves from what is a clear threat. The President of the United States is declaring economic war on 1 in 8 total Americans who call California home. It's unconscionable. It's unbelievable, but we will protect us and we will stay solid.
Assemblymember Isaac Bryan, we were going to speak with Luis Rodriguez, the poet and gubernatorial candidate, but I got to ask you this before I let you go. What should we be doing? We've heard so much about know your rights and don't open the door, and but yet my own brother, who's a black American, was detained by ICE. So what are we supposed to do? I mean, we can know our rights, but if masked men come and drag you into a van, what? Oh, I have the right to remain silent? Like, what are we actually supposed to do?
Yeah, I think the first thing is if you are a vulnerable person in Los Angeles in this moment, if you are a target of these raids, stay home, protect yourself, stay with your family, stay closed off. If you are an ally or somebody who just cares deeply about the city and you feel compelled to be out in the streets, move in coalition and solidarity with organizers on the ground who have been doing this for decades. Remember, this isn't the first time Los Angeles has risen up. We always rise up when it's right. There are leaders in the community. Link up with them. Make sure you're organized and decide for yourself what this moment is worth to you. Some folks, like Mayor Baraka, courageous and said, by any means, if they arrest me, then they arrest me, but I'm going to speak out today. And if that's you, then make sure you are organized, protected, and know those rights. You do not have to speak without a lawyer. They cannot enter your vehicle, your home, without a signed warrant by a federal judge. Know those rights, understand those rights, and trust that the judicial system will enforce those rights. We're going to have our first test of this on Monday. Tomorrow, it's the arraignment of David Huerta, the SEIU USWW leader and president of SEIU California. His arraignment is tomorrow. I will be at that arraignment, and I will be at the rally after that. We've got to support David in his court case against the federal government for obstruction of justice, which to me just sounds like a charge of good trouble. The courts have to affirm that, and we've got to have his back.
We can now confirm that we have ICE agents in Pasadena at the AC Hotel and Hotel Dina to follow up on what James Farr said. And Assemblymember Isaac Bryan, thank you so much for always being here with us on KBLA.
Absolutely. Y'all be well.
Thank you.
You too.
We're being joined now by former poet laureate for the city of Los Angeles. He's been a two-time gubernatorial candidate. He's got at least 20 books, a longtime activist and author, Luis J. Rodriguez. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Dominique.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. We've been talking about every aspect of sort of the protest of solidarity or lack of solidarity. And, how do you look at this moment as a longtime Angelino? You're Latino, but you're Chicano, and you're very much a part of the fabric of this city, from Watts to the Valley. How do you view this moment of really like an invasion by the federal government and to our city?
Well, as I think people already pointed out, this is an invasion not just against the migrants or Mexicans or Central Americans, against all of us, and that's what I think is important. I remember in the Watts Rebellion, and I lived in Watts, and that was my community, and I considered it my primary home in L.A. when I first got here. The rebellion was actually black and brown. People didn't know that, but they cordoned off the section of Mexicans that were trying to be part of it. And I don't know if you know, but if I forget how many people were killed, 30-something people that were killed. Some of them were Mexican who were trying to get through the cordon-off sections. I mentioned that to point out that our commonality as black and brown people is more important more than ever. I think it's important that we unite on those common things that we have to deal with, like the economy, like not having health care, like deportations, which affects black migrants just like it affects brown migrants. These just are the issues that I think should put us together. This is where we need an integrated, broad, strategic, disciplined resistance against what's going on against the Trump administration.
What does that solidarity look like to you, Luis?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with people. Let's go back to Martin Luther King when he was trying to develop that Poor People's Campaign. And he invited everybody, including Cesar Chavez, including the AIM Native Americans, including white poor people, and it wasn't just Christians at all. I think Christians should be at the heart of it. It was all kinds of people. I think that's what we need to do. He started something that I think also contributed to him being killed. He was bringing in people on the issues that were touching everyone, regardless of race, what part of the country they were from, regardless of what party they were in, and that was that we're being affected by poverty, and the government and others were trying to divide us on superficial things and not the more essential thing, like how are we going to end the poverty throughout the country. And in our country today, poverty has grown, and I think people understand that a lot of this immigrant to immigration thing is really to impoverish more people, not to so-called safeguard our communities.
We're going to ask Luis Rodriguez to stand by for just a second and stay with us as we're pushing toward the top of the hour. We're also going to be joined when we come forward by Ruben Navarrete Jr., a contributor to my program. His politics are a bit more conservative than Dominique's politics and mine, but I'm just curious to get his take as a conservative Latino on how he is processing what's happening here in his state of California. He's from from Fresno, actually, but he lives in San Diego, so he's living in Southern California right now. He's the most widely read Latino columnist in the nation. So we'll talk to Luis Rodriguez and Ruben Navarrete Jr. when we come forward at the top of the next hour. I am Tavis Smiley, joined by all of my colleagues, Dominique DePrima, Nicola Corte, Adrian Shropshire, Dion Raymond with me in studio at this hour. We've had others on all morning, but we've got one more hour to go in this special conversation, this live special on KBLA Talk 1580, as Donald Trump has deployed National Guard troops to L.A. amid immigration raids, I should say. You're listening, we're glad about it, to KBLA Talk 1580.